It all began in the heavy rainy season. The village, once known for laughter, is now known for fear. Fear has swallowed the whole Ezenukwe. The first child died on a cold midnight when thunder shook the village roof. The baby belonged to Nwakego, the wife of a palm wine tapper, Ojadili. The child had been born healthy only 2 days before. Women had danced around the hut, singing Thanksgiving songs to Chineke. Then, before dawn, screams shattered the village. Nwakego ran out naked except for a wrapper tied loosely around her waist, clutching her dead child. Hey, I am finished. What is this all over my child's skin? The baby's skin had turned pale white. Its lips were dark. Its eyes remained open. And there was not a single drop of blood in the tiny body. The villagers gathered trembling. What is this? What happened to the baby? Old women spat upon the ground. Tufiakwa, what is this on the baby's skin? This has never happened on this village before. Obanje, one whispered. No, another one replied. This is worse than Obanje. The Dibias of Ezenukwe performed sacrifice. Goats were slaughtered. White chalk was spread around compounds. Protective leaves were tied on doors. Yet 3 nights later, another child died. Then another and another. Soon, every newborn in Ezenukwe became marked for death. Pregnant women cried themselves to sleep each night, praying their unborn child would survive till morning. But the horror did not stop there. Strange marks began appearing on people's body. Men woke up with deep stretch marks across their chests. Women found bite marks on their thighs. Children screamed about shadows standing beside their mats at night. People began saying things. A tall woman with backward feet wandering near the evil forest. A black goat with red eyes staring through windows. 5 figures dressed in white dancing in the graveyard under moonlight. And always, there came the smell. The smell of burnt flesh and rotten blood. The elders gathered in the obi of King Okonkwo, ruler of Ezenukwe. The king was an old man with a grey beard and eyes burdened by fear. Even his royal guards no longer walked boldly at night. Then Elder Madabuchi spoke. These are not ordinary winches. The room darkened with unease. They are 5. 5. At once, murmurs filled the obi. Every elder there knew the legend. Long ago, 5 women had been banished from Ezenukwe after being caught eating human flesh during a famine. They appear into the forbidden forest beyond the hills of Ugwocha. People believe they died there. One of the elders crossed himself nervously. Could they have returned? Before anyone answered, a woman burst into the palace screaming. It was Chiamaka. Blood covered her wrapper. My child, she cried. They took my child. The elders rushed outside. The villagers gathered around her hut. Inside, her husband lay unconscious with claw marks across his face. And the baby, gone. Only bloodstain remained on the mat. That was the night Ezenukwe stopped sleeping. Fires burned outside every hut till dawn. Mothers held their child tightly. Men carried machetes everywhere, but fear could not stop death. Every night someone screamed. Every morning another corpse appeared. Sometimes the dead were found hanging from trees where their stomachs ripped open. Sometimes they were discovered beside streams, completely drained of blood. The village became cursed ground. Every neighboring community stopped trading with Ezenukwe. No one wanted to enter a land haunted by witches. Then came the night King Okonkwo himself saw them. The king sat awake beside his oil lamp, unable to sleep. He was deep in thought. Suddenly, tap, 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 something touched the roof. The king froze. Again, that same sound. Like fingernails scraping bamboo. Then came laughter. Soft, a female laughter. A terrible one. The king slowly stood. his hands trembling. Outside his window stood 5 women. Their eyes glowed red like burning coal. Their hair dragged upon the muddy ground. Their mouths dripped blood. One smiled at him, and the king nearly collapsed when he recognized her. Nneka. She had died 30 years ago, yet there she stood among the others. The tallest winch pointed at the king and spoke in a voice like breaking bones. Ezenukwe belong to us now. The oil lamp exploded. Darkness swallowed the room. The king screamed, a loud scream. Guards rushed inside, moment later, and found him shaking violently beneath his stool. The next morning, King Okonkwo summoned all his warriors. "We can no longer fight this evil alone," he declared weakly. He turned to his strongest guard, a giant man named Ikemefuna. "You must go to Omukwe," the elders murmured hopefully. Omukwe was famous throughout the land because of one man, Dibia Okorie. Some called him the greatest medicine man. Others feared him more than death itself. Stories said he could speak with spirits, that he once defeated a river demon, that snake bowed before him, that he could see death before it arrived. Ikemefuna bowed. "I will bring him, my king." Before dawn, he departed with 4 warriors, carrying torches and lamp, blessed by the elders. The journey to Omukwe lasted 2 days through thick forests and dangerous paths. At sunset on the second day, they arrived. Omukwe was unlike Ezenukwe. The village felt alive. No shadow of fear hung in the air. But the moment Ikemefuna mentioned Dibia Okorie, smile vanished from people's faces. An old woman pointed slightly towards the hills. He lived there now. The guards climbed till darkness covered the land. At the hilltop stood a lonely shrine surrounded by skulls of animals. Dibia Okorie sat before a fire wearing a red wrapper. His body was covered in white chalk. Cowries hung around his neck. His eyes remained closed. Yet before they spoke, he said calmly, "I know why you came. The winches of Ezenukwe has finally risen." The guards exchanged frightened glances. Ikemefuna knelt immediately. "Great Dibia, our people are dying. Please save us." Okorie slowly opened his eyes, and the warrior recoiled. His left eye was completely white. "I warned you people many years ago," he said quietly. "Now the debt has returned." "What debt?" Ikemefuna asked. The Dibia stared into the fire. "Long ago, the fathers of Ezenukwe committed a terrible sin. They accused innocent women of witchcraft during a season of famine. 5 women were tortured, humiliated, then banished into the evil forest. They were not witches then. But hatred can transform suffering into darkness. In the forest, they made covenant with ancient spirits beneath the earth. They fed on blood, they abandoned humanity. And over the years, they became monsters." Ikemefuna swallowed hard. "Can they be destroyed?" Okorie's face darkened. "Yes, they can be destroyed." Hope filled the warriors. Hello besties, I hope you have shared the story and also subscribed to this channel. But the Dibia continue. Yet many will die first. The journey back to Ezenukwe became heavier than before. Okorie traveled with them, carrying only a staff carved from Iroko wood and a small bag tied with animal skin. The moment they entered Ezenukwe, strange winds began blowing. Babies cried. Even the trees seemed restless. Villagers rushed from their huts, hope and fear mixed in their eyes. Dibia Okorie has come. Women knelt crying. Men bowed in tiredness. But Okorie's expression remained grim. "These winches are stronger than you understand," he warned. That night, he ordered nobody to leave their huts after moonrise. He drew strange symbols across the village square using white chalk and animal blood. Then he planted 5 burning staffs around Ezenukwe. The spirit will come tonight, he said, and we shall see their true faces. Darkness came. No drum sounded, no voices rose, only silence. Then midnight came. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, another followed. Then laughter echoed from every direction. The burning staff burst into green flames. Villagers peeped through windows trembling, and from the forest they emerged. 5 women floating above the earth, their body twisted unnaturally, their eyes glowed like fire. Around their necks hung strings of human bones. The tallest winch laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha. So, Okorie still lives. I see. The Dibia stepped forward calmly. Nneka, leave this village. The winch smiled. This village belongs to the dead now. Then the other witches attacked. Chaos exploded instantly. One winch leaped upon a man, ripping open his throat before disappearing into darkness. Another transformed into a giant owl. Villagers ran everywhere. Okorie struck his staff against the earth. Thunder exploded from the sky. A blinding light swallowed the square. The winches shrinked painfully, but Nneka stood unmoved. You cannot defeat us. Then she stretched out her hand. Suddenly, Okorie froze. Blood tricked from his nose. The villagers shouted. The great Dibia struggled as invisible forces tightened around his throat. Nneka laughed wickedly. You are old now and can never be stronger than me. Ikemefuna charged briefly with a machete, but another winch slashed his chest with cross, throwing him across the square. The battle became madness. Fire spread across the hut. People cried to Chineke for mercy. Then Okorie suddenly shouted ancient words. The ground shook violently. A cycle of fire erupted across the winches. 4 of them screamed. 4 of them screamed. But Nneka's eyes widened in fury. You dare use the forbidden incantation? You stupid old man. The fire tightened around them. Villagers watched breathlessly. Then something terrible happened. Nneka pointed towards a nearby hut. A baby cry echoed inside. Okorie's face changed instantly. The winch smiled wickedly. You cannot save everyone. She vanished. The other winches disappeared with her. The fire died immediately. Silence fell. Villagers rushed towards the hut, but they were too late. The child was dead. His mother collapsed screaming upon the ground. That night, nobody celebrated. Though the winches retreated, fear remained alive. Okorie sat alone beneath the Odala tree till dawn. King Okonkwo approached him quietly. Can they truly be defeated? The Dibia looked towards the dark forest. Yes. Then why do you look troubled? Okorie's voice lowered. Because I now understand their pain. Their pain? What pain? The Dibia turned slowly. They are not merely killing people. They are preparing for rebirth. The king's blood ran cold. Rebirth. Okorie explained that the witches needed the blood of newborns and villagers to awaken an ancient spirit buried beneath Izenukwe. The spirit older than memory itself. The spirit called Ochimwo, the Eye of Darkness. If it rises, Okorie whispered, Ezenukwe will cease to exist. Panic spread quickly through the village after hearing this. Some fled immediately to the neighboring village. Others prepared sacrifice desperately. But Okorie knew time was running out. 3 nights later, he entered the forbidden forest alone. The villagers watched him disappear. Hours later, their scream echoed from deep within the forest. Terrible scream. Even strong warriors were frightened hearing them. At dawn, Okorie returned wounded. Blood covered his chest. His white eyes had turned black. The shrine, he muttered weakly. What shrine? Ikemefuna asked. The witches built a shrine beneath the hills. The spirit is almost awaking. King Okonkwo trembled. What must we do to stop them? Okorie looked towards the rising sun. We must destroy the shrine before the next full moon, and the witches, they must all die. Preparation began immediately. Warriors sharpened machetes, charms were distributed, women and children hide inside fortified compounds. Yet deep inside their hearts, many believe they would not survive. On the night of the full moon, Okorie led 12 warriors into the forest. Ikemefuna walked beside him despite his wounds. The deeper they traveled, the colder the air began. Strange whispers floated through darkness. Then they found it. A massive cave hidden beneath tangled roots. Human bones covered the entrance. Inside, drums echoed slowly, like the heartbeats of something sleeping. The warriors entered cautiously, and there, deep within the cave, stood the 5 winches. Around them lay dozens of dead newborns. Blood flowed through the cave channels on the ground towards the giant stone altar. Above the altar floated a dark shadow, pulsing like smoke. The spirit was awaking. Nneka smiled. Ha ha! You are too late. The spirit is already awakened. Then the cave exploded into chaos. The witches attacked them. Warriors screamed. Blood splattered across stone walls. One man burst into flames instantly. Another became possessed, turning against his companions. Ikemefuna fought like a lion, slicing through one witch's arm. Her scream shook the cave. Okorie began chanting furiously while throwing powders into the fire. The shadow above the altar withered violently. Nneka rushed him violently, but Ikemefuna intercepted her. They clashed against the altar. The giant warrior held her tightly while she tore flesh from his body. Now, he screamed at Okorie. The Dibia raised his staff. Ancient words thundered from his mouth. Lightning erupted inside the cave. The altar shattered. The dark spirit screamed like 1,000 souls burning. One by one, the witches began turning to ash. They shrieked horribly as flames consumed them. But Nneka still struggled. Her eyes locked onto Okorie with hatred beyond human understanding. You cannot erase pain, she screamed. Then she drove her claws into Ikemefuna's chest. The warrior shouted. Yet, even dying, he refused to release her. Okorie struck the ground one final time. A blinding light swallowed the cave. The explosion shook the entire forest. When silence finally returned, the shrine was gone. The spirit vanished. The witches has become nothing but black dust carried by the wind. But Ikemefuna lay dying. Okorie knelt beside him sadly. You saved Ezenukwe, the warrior smiled. At least the children will live. Then he breathed his last. Money came gently over Ezenukwe for the first time in many months. People stepped outside without fear. And when the next child was born on the village, it survived. The people rejoiced greatly. King Okonkwo declared 7 days of thanksgiving throughout the land. Too many graves covered Ezenukwe now. Too many mothers still cry silently at night. Too many memories remained. Ikemefuna was buried beside the great Udala tree as a hero. And Dibia, 3 days after the battle, he disappeared quietly before dawn. Nobody ever saw him again. Others believe he returned to the hills of Omukwe, but nobody ever saw him again. And whenever moonlight turned red over Ezenukwe, mothers still whisper prayers softly before sleeping. Thank you very much for watching my channel. Please don't forget to share and subscribe and turn on the notification button to get notified for more interesting stories. Bye bye.